Good morning, everyone. Welcome to one of the exciting portions of today's diversity breakfast. It is where we get a chance to hear and learn about our honorees. I am Tiffany Hamilton. I have the privilege and honor not only to moderate today's conversation, but to also serve as one of the co-chairs or tri-chairs of this year's breakfast. Thank you to all of the sponsors. Thank you to AJC, Westchester, and Fairfield County for bringing us together. The pandemic tried to shut us down, but we said no. This breakfast is so important. We decided to get us all together this morning. So thank you for taking the time out to be with us. Thank you, AJC Westchester and Fairfield, for continuing to create spaces to talk about this year's theme and justice for all. Today, we have an opportunity to hear from our honorees. So what we'll do is take a moment to allow them to introduce themselves, and then we'll get into our dialogue. So let's start with Reverend Trollinger. Could you please introduce yourself and share your organization of affiliation?
Well, good morning, everyone, and I thank all of you for being here with us. And by this way of Zoom breakfast, this is the most non-fat breakfast I will have in my life by doing Zoom. My coffee is hot and everything else is good. Well, I always like to put smiles on people's face, and that's how I really like to always introduce myself. I am Reverend Erwin Lee Trollinger Jr. I'm the proud pastor of the Calvary Baptist Church. I'm entering into my 10th year here at Calvary Baptist Church of White Plains. I'm also a product of Westchester County. I graduated from Woodlands High School. I'm not going to tell you what year, but I did graduate from there. And also, I am the president of the Ministers Fellowship Council for the City of White Plains and vicinity, and also the proud dad of four gorgeous, three young ladies and one gentleman. They are my heart and my mission. So I hope that introduces me a little bit.
Thank you so much. Welcome and congratulations. Sam, tell us a little bit about yourself and your organization affiliation.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks for having me, and thank you for this recognition. My name is Sam Wallace. I am the Executive Director of Yonkers Partners in Education, YPI. I'm actually a teacher by training and a Westchester resident originally, and after a journey around sort of the country teaching, landed right back in my home county, where as an organization, YPI works with students in the Yonkers public schools to help them get ready for college, help them get into college, and ultimately help them stay as a way to break the cycle of poverty and see upward mobility for our students.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Last but definitely not least, Ms. Catalina, could you introduce yourself?
So it is an honor and privilege to be here this morning with all of you. I was the founder and executive director of an organization called Building One Community, the Center for Immigrant Opportunity, organization that we started with a group of stakeholders, including day workers, people who worked cleaning houses, people from all walks of life 10 years ago. I just left the organization as its founding executive director. The organization is in wonderful hands, and it was something that was carefully planned because I do believe that leadership has to be renewed. So that was part of the original plan when we started the organization. I'm a proud mother of two wonderful young women who have 3 passports, who are citizens of the world. And at this point, one is in Colombia and one is in London. So thank you for this invitation, and it's an honor to be here with the Reverend and with Sam as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Now you all see why these are our honorees for this year, right? So, when you listen to the introductions that you all shared, many of you have a connection beyond being honorees, right? You're familiar with transition, follow me, whether it's transitioning as an immigrant into new spaces or having access to new spaces, whether it's transitioning through education, right, from secondary to post-secondary education, or transitioning spiritually, the growth and development that takes place through there. So when we think about transition and all of the variables therein, and we think about today's breakfast theme and justice for all, I want to start with Sam. When you heard about the theme and got your recognition, what does and justice for all mean for you? And perhaps share how that manifests itself in the work that you do.
Sure. So I just want to start by saying this year, I think we've seen more people than ever fighting for that idea of and justice for all. And so I recognize that my recognition this morning is one amongst millions of folks this year doing the work, whether they're COVID doctors going into areas where there's high levels of COVID, or getting people registered to vote, or fighting for racial injustice in the streets. There's so much going on that we can be proud of around the country. And so I take what we do and what I do as just a piece of a much broader initiative. But I will say that when I think about my piece in this work of End Justice for All, I think about a student that I had. So I started teaching in the Mississippi Delta, and I taught at a school in a town that was divided racially by train tracks. One side, we had white students going to a private school, and on the other side was a predominantly Black neighborhood with a predominantly Black school that, believe it or not, was still called, and I'm not going to say the full name, but the School for Color, which was insane to think about in our modern era. And I had one student in particular that haunts me every day because she had the intellectual curiosity unlike anyone I've ever met in my life. And I think every day about what barriers were put in her way, and she still maintained an outlook on the world to be intellectually curious. And so the work that might sound Mississippi like a long way away, but we see a lot of the same barriers right here in Westchester County. And we see it in Yonkers, where my organization operates. And so when I think about End Justice for All, I think about what are the barriers we put in place as a society for our young people, whether it's down south or right here. And our job, I see, is to unleash those barriers, unlock them, so that our students can have End Justice for All and to let their voices be heard. And that's what my organization's committed to, and what I'm so proud our staff and huge community of volunteers are doing every day.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much. And the power of education in information therein when folks just have access, right? And we support that intellectual curiosity. Thank you, Sam. Catalina, what about you? When you think of And Justice for All, how does that tie in to the work that you do, and what does it mean for you?
Yeah, so I want to follow up on what Sam said, because I think that this last 6-8 months, I guess, by now, have been an amazing opportunity for us to see what working for justice is all about, but also about injustices and about the lack of opportunity. So when I think about justice, I just think about there's no justice without equal opportunity. You know, the country or the neighborhood where you're born, or the language that you speak, or the color of your skin should not determine, our future. At Build the One Community, I had the honor and the privilege to meet absolutely amazing individuals who call Connecticut home, from countries as diverse as Haiti, Guatemala, Syria, or Ivory Coast. And I will take all of your time this breakfast to share these stories that all of them had, and just their stories that are of hardship and determination. But when I think about their heartbreaking stories and also their inspiring stories, and the reasons why they left their homes, their hopes and their dreams that they brought when they arrived to this country, I just think about one word: it's opportunity. And in the case of these stories that were part of my day-to-day, is that actually the lack of opportunity. We used to, and those of you who are in education, we used to refer to the quote-unquote achievement gap, when we're trying to understand students from underserved communities, or the gap between aspirations and attainment that Sam just referred to. But this is not just about the children. It's about the parents. It's about all the adults, so many adults whose lives are filled with unsurmountable obstacles to absolutely no fault of their own. So in my view, the best way to really think about this is to frame it in terms of what we call the opportunity gap. There will be no justice for all if those of us who were born into a certain category of opportunity are not fully aware about the huge discrepancies that exist not only in remote places across the world, but also right here in our own backyard, in Westchester, in Fairfield County. We live in a world, in a country where there's not only an opportunity gap, but there's also an opportunity myth. You know, many people still believe in that myth, that it's all about working hard, and that's enough. You know, we need to dispel that myth and work to make these opportunities possible. It is up to all of us to understand, to own, and to be intentional about what we can do as individuals and as a collective, so that we can contribute to making our community a place where there's no opportunity gap and there's justice for all.
Very powerful, Catalina. Thank you so much. Very, very powerful words. And it reminds me of the mission of the university that I work for, Pace University. Our mission is opportunita, right? And so thinking about opportunity and those that have awareness and access to, and those who don't, and taking that responsibility of bridging that gap and dispelling the myth of opportunity gap. So I really appreciate those words. Reverend Trollinger, what about you? And justice for all, what does that mean for you?
Well, I'm going to build on what Catalina had mentioned, just an important word for my life, and that word is intentional. Intentional. When we look at the word "and justice for all," as you know, preachers are wordsmiths. You know, we look at words and we define them in such ways. And so I always teach my ministers to, there's no word that's in the Bible not to go along with whatever you're preaching or teaching. So the word "and" caught my attention, because when we talk about and is a conjunction. Something else is about to be spoken, said, determined, make happen. And so I thought about the word before it, freedom and justice for all. And it's possible for people to be physically free, but not to be mentally have justice at the same time. And so when I think about justice, I think about the fact that the word defined means a just behavior or treatment. It also brings into being what is a genuine respect for all people, the legitimacy, the soundness. The root word of justice is fair and just. And so in the work that I do here in the church and the work that I do in the larger community, that no matter what the shade, color, or orientation, I look to make sure that that person is able to have the legitimate right to experience the fairness of behavior by everyone. Catalina told about a story. Catalina, I remember, I think it was last year, I stood for the first time on the steps of the United States Federal Courthouse here in White Plains, along with a group of other people that was talking about the injustices of people being arrested because they were not legal citizens, and children coming home, I'm about to cry, coming home and mama and daddy not there. Where is the justice in that? You know? And so it pains me to know that someone can think that they are superior and greater than somebody else. And we here in America make a pledge and say that we want justice for all. So no matter how old they are, no matter what color they are, no matter what orientation they are, There has to be a fair and just treatment that is equal on the playing field. And when mercy needs to step up, justice then can step aside and cause the right actions and the right things to occur. So our babies in the South of Mississippi are not in cages, but they are in warm homes while they await for their moms and dads to retrieve them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Powerful. Thank you, Reverend Trollinger. Thank you so much. You know, we've had an opportunity to not only learn about you, but what and justice for all means to you and for the work that you do. And so just on behalf of all of us that are here at the breakfast, we want to say thank you for the work that you do. And this recognition is definitely in order. And so as we bring our conversation to a close, maybe there's a charge that you have for the participants of this year's breakfast. You know, we see and have seen, particularly over the last 7 or 8 months, the unrest in our communities, the labor for injustice for all. And there may be someone watching this morning that's tired and exhausted, right? And so perhaps you could share maybe a charge or words of advice for the participants in today's breakfast. Catalina, any closing words from you?
So it'd be a little presumptuous for me to give advice to, this panel and to the people that are here with us after all of us have worked so hard to address issues of injustice around us. But I would like to suggest or share 3 words of concepts that I try to live by. The first one is relationships. If we see each other, we will hear each other. We will see the humanity in every person, regardless of their background and ethnicity, and we will begin to address the underlying issues that affect so many people who live among us. We cannot address an issue or solve a problem that we do not understand, but we need to understand the issues from the voices of those who are living the injustice. The second one is building, Madam, what Reverend said, is intentionality. This is not about waiting to see what others are doing. It is about actively and intentionally seeking the role that each one of us can play in making our neighborhoods, our communities, and the world a place where there is justice for all. And third is, we need to be bold, brave, and humble as we commit to making changes to support marginalized communities and seek justice for all. We need to challenge ourselves and others around us. This path will be full of ups and downs, and most likely will make us and others at times feel uncomfortable. It is okay to feel uncomfortable. As we embark on this journey, learning from others and with others will require courage, boldness, perseverance, and humility.
Wow, thank you, Catalina. What powerful, powerful words. If we see each other, we need to see each other and hear each other. Approach it with a bit of intentionality, being bold, brave, and humble. Awesome. Thank you so much. Reverend Trollinger, what about you? What's your charge to give to this group?
My charge is to those who are listening on this particular morning, and I wrote it out, is I charge and challenge each and every one of you to allow the influence of transformative justice to cause you to see new horizons and thoughts and actions that will empower the least and the lost among us. I charge you to see humanity as a gift and a talent that has been bestowed upon each and every one of us by the living God that is uniquely placed inside of every one of us. And lastly, I charge you not to allow what I like to call the trauma, the drama, and the trouble to lock you in to be pessimistic instead of being optimistic. I dare you to reach, teach, and yes, preach justice for all. Be intentional, be transformative, and be optimistic, and justice for all. My charge.
Thank you, Reverend Trollinger. Powerful charge, powerful charge. Sam, what about you?
So I, as a teacher, often didn't like to tell students or give charges. I like to ask questions. And so I actually think that that's the charge, is to ask the right questions. And I think about a student of mine who was acting out and everyone was ready to suspend this student. But we asked a different question and said, not why are you acting out, but what are you doing this weekend? And I'll never forget the student said to me, I'm giving my mom away at her wedding. And it dawned that he was devastated. He thought he was losing his mother and was acting out as a result. But when we realized that there was a different question to ask, it got at something very different in him. And we were able to bring him back rather than suspend him, or in so many ways that story is applicable. So I just think about asking the right questions to get the right answer. And just the last thing I would say is, as we're all going through these days that are filled with Zoom and maybe gloom and doom at the same time, reconnecting with values. And so I've asked, just Google a value sheet and find what are the ones that resonate and try to connect with those every day. And I think that's been really helpful for my team as we're tackling the world as it is now. So I'm so thankful to even have a voice here and share. So thank you.
Wow, thank you. Thank you. What powerful, powerful honorees that we have for this year's breakfast. If we ask the right questions, it not only allows us to hear, but it allows us to see. And then our reaction can move from a head issue to a heart issue, allowing us to be intentional, to be brave, to be bold, while carrying humility and seeking justice for all. Thank you all for participating in our moderated discussion with our honorees this morning. We hope that you enjoy the rest of your breakfast, enjoy your coffee, and enjoy seeking justice for all. Thank you.